Recording in
Hey, Doc.
Good evening, Doc. How are you doing today? Yeah, so
Thank you.
I'll do that.
Okay.
Where's this guy? Mm, We are all welcome to this introductory class on tax lien and tax deeds. So, because you all are part of it for the first time, I'm just going to give a background to what tax liens and tax deeds are. So, basically, the question is, what is tax lien? So in the next 40, 50 minutes max, we're just going to look at a general introduction to the tax lien market in the US overall. We look at what tax liens are, what tax deeds are, how the systems work, how you can invest in them, and some key language that it's generally used in the industry. We also look at, like in the US, you have what we call lien state, deed state. You have some that are hybrid state. What are the opportunities in these various states? We also then going to look at what is coming up on the 27th of this month. Anyone who wants to give a try at tax liens and tax deeds, we have in Baltimore County coming up on the 27th of August. Registration currently opened last week. Registration will close on Friday. If you need any more details on that, I just sent in my registration for that. You can. But next week, I will do details on analyzing some properties that will be on auction. I've already shared a list with some people that are on my WhatsApp group, the list of properties that will be going on auction. It has residential, commercial, vacant land, and all those. So I've shared that. So tax investing in the US, the question is, why does this opportunity exist? And between 2021 and now, it has grown from about a 3 billion industry to over 5 billion in tax sales that are done every year. The question is, property taxes are legally mandated by government. So delinquency now is always happening every year from county to county to county. And what happens is that once you violate these mandated taxes, and what do the government needs this money for? The government needs this money for paying schools, paying the firefighters, education, repairing the roads, and all the functions of government within the county. That's how they make money. But what happens is some property owners default, and once you default, what happens? The government can't run government efficiently. Then there is a legal provision that then give government the power to either sell these properties as tax liens, I'll explain that, or tax deeds through the public auction. So these are from county to county, they will always announce what is happening. If we look at the market, it grew from about 3.1 billion in 2021, and now it's currently over 5 billion in terms of the volume of properties tax deed. It's not actually the value of the property, but actually what is owed that is actually sold in the public auctions. So this really opens up the stage for anyone to invest, whether you're buying commercial, retail, you're buying residential, or you're buying vacant land, and all those opportunities exist on this market. So, how does this work? How does this industry work? An owner fails to pay, the county files a tax lien, the lien is sold on a public auction. An investor now, like you and I, you will now hold the certificate if you invest in the tax deed or the tax deed. You will now own the certificate. Once you own the certificate, they would now pay you back. The investor in a lien state, and I will explain there are differences between lien states and there are differences between deed states. The profits you can make, so this is like an investment, number one, either directly guaranteed in the case of a lien state and the lien is redeemed, you get between anything like in the case of Maryland, 12 and 24%. If the investor redeems, if they don't redeem, then that property legally, you have 2 years to foreclose that property. And then now you have the clean deed to the property. So let me say you purchase like in Baltimore City, I purchased some liens there and also in Anne Arundel, because in Baltimore you have two kinds of lien auctions. You have the Baltimore City, just the Baltimore City alone. Then you have the Baltimore County, which is what is coming. The Baltimore City already passed. The Baltimore County is coming. So Baltimore City happened in June. So if you count 6 months from there, early June, that's when Baltimore City auction happened. So June, July, August, September. By September, which is 4 months down the line, that is next month, you can actually ask your attorney to write a letter to the owner of this property and give them what intention to foreclose. And if they don't pay their debts plus the interest, then it moves to foreclosure. That is really what happens. But if they pay their debt plus their interest, then you get back your money plus interest. That's how the lien work. But I'm going to explain that. So in a lien state, you don't directly own the property. In a deed state, you do. From the auction, you have the deed, the property deed. In a lien state, you own the lien certificate until it goes through foreclosure. But so question is, how do liens and deeds work? So like I already said, government makes a claim on the lien, not the property. The owner keeps the property. Many of them are vacant. Some of them are owned by out of state. When you drive around and see lots of those properties on auction and even the lands and all those vacant lands, you see that there is just lots of opportunities out there. So, and like in Baltimore City, if it's a vacant land, actually you can file for early foreclosure, like 4 months, you can foreclose and take possession of it fully. So, in the case of Baltimore County, which is what is coming up on the 27th, if you're interested, I will offer a masterclass on that. That's going to be a paid masterclass for anyone who really wants to register and participate. I just did my registration for that county coming up 27th, but registration closes on Friday. It's $100, but I can share the links to anyone who wants to register to participate in that auction. It's going to be an online auction. Most of the auctions in Maryland are online. So you buy this lien. I'm going to share the list of the properties that will be going on the market. You do your due diligence, you highlight one, two, three, whichever one you are interested in. And then there is obviously a process. I have what I call, last week I was talking about how to bid, watch, or pass some of those indicators, but I can do that more deeply in a masterclass that takes longer than an hour. So you get that, the process of lien, you buy the lien at the auction. If the owner redeems, you get back your money plus interest between 12 and 24%. So low capital, that they're like in Baltimore City, there were liens that were going for $400. There were liens that were going for $600, $5,000, 100,000, 500,000, 1 million. So at any price, so you could enter the market at any price. You do your due diligence. There was one I was bidding for. It was going for 1,000, and they had valued the property at zero, the county. And these are things I can really take into details when we do like a master class. So when I checked, I saw the property was valued at zero, but you went there, you could see it was a 2 bedroom plus a basement, nice property. But you're asking, why is it valued at zero? And there are three reasons. It could be valued at zero because there is a demolition order on the property, or there is some other codes that have been put on the property by the county, or it is vacant. In this case, there was no demolition order, there was no codes that were put on it, but it was valued at zero because, like in Baltimore City, if a property is vacant, they can value it at zero. Not like in the market value is zero, but the county books shows it at zero. So those are two different things, and it's always good to understand that. So that's really what happens with the lien system. So it's best for passive investment. Instead of keeping your money in the bank, you put it there. If there is a lien that actually gets redeemed, you get your money back and your interest. There are tactics in a masterclass. I go deeper into this. You can look at how to actually pick properties that would mostly be foreclosed, including vacant land. One of my friends, she got 20 hectares that she just completed. She's looking at doing huge development on that. So there are lots of ways you can actually look at what to buy when it comes to lien states that you can quickly foreclose. But when it comes to deed state, here you are bidding on the property. At the end of the auction, you immediately take ownership of the property. Ownership is typically lost at the point of sale. The previous owner loses the ownership. It's high capital because people will bid higher on this, but there are some states, and I will give you some examples where you will still get deeds for really next to nothing, because this is a market that many people don't even know about. Many people don't participate. Last year and this year, we have many banks, insurance, and many institutional investors are actually getting into it. Like one of the properties I was bidding for in Baltimore City that happened in June. What happened on that property was, I guess, because when I looked at the bidder number, that particular bidder they bought like over 10 million worth of properties. And to me, that's an institutional investor, because when I bid on this property, they came and tripled the amount, and you could see that those are institutional investors. So they are getting into the market, but irrespective of that, there are still opportunities all across the US to look at liens and deeds. And if you have any questions about those, you would ask at the end. Different 50 states in the US, and I will share these in some handouts. Like you have over 16 states that are lien states, including Maryland and DC. You have over 22 states that are deed states, which means in these states, when they do auction, you take possession of the property immediately. Whether you're looking at California, Texas, you're looking at Georgia, you're looking at Michigan, you're looking at Oregon, you are looking at North Carolina, Minnesota. There are so many states. Arkansas and all that, Utah, there is a lot that you go to those auctions, and many of these auctions are online. You don't have to go to those states. And like I have friends across the US, and we have a network where we have people across different states. We call them boots on the ground. Like if you want to buy a property in California, for example, there's someone whom we can hook you up with, and they can go drive by, because we do what we call drive by. Just check the property, take some photos and send to you, and you can make a call on that. If you want to bid on that property, we can use boots on the ground on any state. Then we have what we call hybrid, so redeemable states, which means you can buy the deed to the property, but the government gives the owner a particular limited amount of time and say that your property is gone on auction, but you have up to this amount of time to come and pay back the money, pay back the interest, and take back ownership of your property. So states like Florida, like Illinois, like Indiana, like Ohio, and New York, LA, these are states that have what we call redeemable deed. So this is a hybrid model where you can buy and hold, call it buy and hold in my own terminology, until the owner either comes and pay back the money within the time that the government gives them, otherwise as final. So those are the hybrids. So you have the lien state, the deed state, and the hybrid state. There are different states classified under each of these. So depending on the state, then you would know what kind of auction to participate in. And we also have what we call over the counter. Like Prince George County in Maryland, their auction passed in May of this year, but you can still buy in PG County right now using what we call over the counter. And there is a methodology to actually buy these kind of properties using the over the counter methodology. So interest rates differ from state to state. They are high in states like Illinois that pays about 36%, which means if you buy any lien in that state, the owner would pay you 35% of what you bought. You're holding the lien certificate, otherwise you foreclose. So, and they could be as low as 10% interest in Montana. No bank pays you those kind of interest. So the interest rates on liens are actually very high, and they are guaranteed by the property. So even if you don't foreclose the lien, you will still get your money back plus interest. Then when you foreclose, it's a double bonus, and there are many others that you don't even have to foreclose. You just buy the deed directly, depending on whether it's a deed auction or a lien auction that you participated in. So you can look at that from a perspective of making extra money through the interest, or you can look at it from the perspective of actually foreclosing and having what we call an exit strategy, whether you want to do it for rental, short-term income, long-term, commercial, whatever, depending. So there'll be a lot of factors and a lot of things you can look at to develop a proper exit strategy, or buy and sell wholesale to other developers, or buy and renovate and sell still. So there's just lots of exit strategy depending on the specific property. So let's zoom into Maryland, where we all are right now, for a moment. If there is any question so far, you can just open your mic and ask it. Otherwise, at the end, we can look at them. If you have any questions so far on just understanding what deeds are, what liens are, the different states, what interest rates are, and all this, you can just on mic and talk about it. Otherwise, when we get to the end, we would look at any question if there are. All right. So when we want to look at Maryland at a glance, just looking at Maryland, there is a code, or in terms of the property article of Maryland, Title 14, Sub 8. It actually gives authority to the counties to put liens on property, which means that the government takes possession of that property until the debt is paid. That is a lien. So investors now will receive this lien certificate, not the deed at auction. So what you get is the lien certificate. As far as Maryland is concerned, like I showed you, which states are lien states, which states are hybrid. And for Maryland, it's a lien state. So you're going to get the lien certificate. And the interest rate for Baltimore, I like to talk about Baltimore County, that is coming up on the 27th of this month, is 12%. So Baltimore City is 18%, and it varies. In Maryland, it has a range of between 12 and 24%, depending on the county that you're dealing with. And the bid method, you bid up, so you start bidding from how much is owed. Let me say this property has a tax on this property of $1,000. That's where you start bidding up. But what happens is, ideally, if you buy the property or you buy the lien at what is owed, that is ideally, because government by law, before government could take excess, but as of 2023, there was a couple of court cases in Minnesota that changed the regulations, because there was a property that was sold. This property went on auction in Minnesota for 45,000. The owner of this property owed the state of the Minneapolis state or county, the owner owed them 15,000. So when they sold this property, there was an excess of about 25,000 in that case that the state retained, because that was the law before. If the government sells for whatever price, the government keeps everything. Then this property owner, even though they lost their property, they went to court to say that it was unfair that the government took the excess from what they sold at the auction. And then the court ruled that in any case that the government sells your property over and above what is owed, the government is only allowed to keep what is owed, and the rest of the money must go to the previous owner of the property. So right now, states are quite reluctant to actually do what we call premium bidding and all those excess bidding, because that money they're not legally allowed to keep that money. But there are other regulations and nuances in a detailed or maybe 2 hours kind of masterclass on this we can look at when we pick one county and we're really zoning just on it, looking at what happens there, looking at the risk assessments and how you make a decision to buy or not buy. So in Maryland, if it's a vacant property, like all the properties that I bought for in the past 2 months, if they are vacant, like all those are either vacant or land, the ones I did, you have 6 months, in some counties, 4 months to foreclose. To start your foreclosure process, between 6 and 4 months if it's vacant. In Maryland, the law says if it is owner occupied, you have to wait up to 9 months before foreclosure is allowed. So if it is vacant, and I prefer to buy vacant properties and land, because the processes around it is quite easier and more straightforward than the owner occupied one. So for me, it's a personal preference to focus on non-owner occupied kind of liens and deeds when I'm buying. It's part of my strategy in this industry. So once you win the bid, you wait for the legally allowed time for foreclosure. Then you file in the circuit courts, and then you allow time for those processes to go, except there is some contestation, especially in instances of owner occupied or some other nuances around the property. Then it could take a little longer before you can get the deed in that property. That is in lien state. In deed state, you actually get the deed at the auction. So that is really the summary of what happens in Maryland. Owner keeps the property after the auction, like what will happen in Baltimore County on the 27th. After that property, if you buy one, two, three, whatever, what you get will be the certificate. You will keep those certificates. The owner will still keep possession of the property till that 6 months time would elapse. So that is really what happens in Maryland. You keep the tax lien certificate. If the owner redeems, you get your interest and your money back. If they don't redeem within the 6 months for vacant property, you foreclose. If they don't redeem for owner occupied within 9 months, you foreclose. So what is happening, like just looking at Baltimore City, or no, not Baltimore City, Baltimore County, that is coming up on the 27th of August. So on the 1st of July each year, as far as the laws are concerned in Baltimore County, and I think across Maryland, your tax bills for the year, your property tax bills are issued 1st of July. So for 2025, 1st of July, tax bills are issued. And what happens is they give you a period of time up to the end of September. September 30th is your payment deadline. That is for the previous year. If you don't pay your 2025 taxes by that particular time, what happens is they send you a final notice that you missed your payment. And if you don't pay that within 30 days, what happens is they now publish your property in what they call the government papers, which will be, they have 4 months to advertise that these things are going to be going on auction. So if you don't do anything within that particular time, on the 28th of July, like in Baltimore County, they started registration for auction. 28th of July. That was last week. So they give people access to register to buy this property. And on the 7th of August, like I said, at 4:30, that would be the closing date if you intend to participate. That's the deadline that you must have registered. Then on the 27th of August, there will be online tax sales for all these delinquent properties. So you must be mindful that, like I said, for owner occupied, if you buy any owner occupied, it's going to take you 9 months to foreclose. If you buy non-owner occupied, it's going to take you 6 months to foreclose. So redemption. So you can hold your tax deed or your tax lien in Maryland. They give you up to 2 years. If you cannot foreclose it within 2 years, then you lost the right to foreclose it. You lost that right to foreclose that property within 2 years. So you receive the deed at the point of auction. You receive the deed once you finally go through the foreclosure process. So as far as Baltimore County is concerned, if that is something that's of interest to you, the 7th of August is the deadline for registration. It's $100 paid online. So how to register, like I said, I can share the links. It's online. You pay $100 and all that. And then you prepare yourself. You do your due diligence. You identify possible properties. There's a lot of properties that will be on auction. You identify possible properties that you like to bid on. And then you come up with your, I always say you need to already map your properties and say, this one I'm going to bid, this one I'll watch, this one I'll pass, and this is my maximum. So it's bidding and buying, as an economist, it's a game of numbers. So you do your numbers and you only follow what you can't be emotionally attached to no property. This is not an emotional game. This is an economics game of numbers. So you look at the numbers, you look at the risk analysis, you look at everything, and you make your bidding decision based on the numbers and nothing else but the numbers. Don't say this house is too beautiful or this. No, it's about the numbers. You check all that, you put it in a model, you crunch it, and you only bid, pass, or watch based on the numbers and the numbers only. No emotional attachment to these properties. So like I always say, it's important to do your risk analysis. Don't just see like the property I bid on in Baltimore City in June. When you see a valuation of zero, it must already ring a bell to you. Is this property having a demolition order? Is it having a condemnation note? Or is it valued at zero because it's vacant? So you need to call the office in charge. You need to do your due diligence. You need to look at everything concerning the lien. So there's a lot of things that are really important before you take your money and invest. Because think about it, maybe you have an exit strategy, you want to build some commercial building, or you want to build assisted living facility, you have a goal to do something, or it's a land, you want to do agriculture, or you want to do development. Whatever your exit strategy is, it's important that you do your due diligence to understand what are the current zoning of that property. Are there any current orders put on that particular property or land from the county that you need to be mindful of? So once you do all that due diligence, that really helps you to make, are there any voided kind of laws around that particular point? For example, there are some lands that are non-buildable. The city has said you can't build in this place. And if your exit strategy was to build, then you didn't do your research, you see that, can I build or not build on this place? By the time you buy it, then you can't build. Then you will be left to either put it back on the market and try to sell it, or do something else with it, because what you wanted to do, you can't do. I have a friend, she wanted to do an assisted living facility in the property. So when she got this property, actually it was zoned commercial. But guess what? In terms of the county laws, they also have a number of, whether it's churches, it's assisted living, it's preschool, and any kind of business, they also have a capacity. Like in this particular square miles, or this, we cannot have over and above this amount of this kind of businesses. So hers was rejected because, not because it wasn't low zoned commercial, but because the county had full capacity in terms of that particular kind of development in that area that she bought. So she needed to think alternative. What am I going to do with this? You also need to check things like, have these people, because some people, instead of leaving their property to be taken by government, they go through a parole process or filing for bankruptcy. And if they file for bankruptcy, that can actually delay the processes of tax liens further. And in my kind of detailed, long, kind of 2 hours or 3 hours master class, that's a paid class, I go into, like, if I'm working on analyzing a particular county, I'm going to pull the data, pull some properties, look at them one after the other, and we do a risk analysis of that so that you can know exactly what to do when you go to the auction to buy. So you need to also look at things like environmental issues, because I think I already mentioned those, like condemnation orders, code of violations, some of those things that don't pass inspection, and all that, that might be a problem to you when you actually want to convert the property into your next exit strategy. So those are some of the very, very key things as far as tax liens is concerned. And in Maryland and in Baltimore County, that will be coming up. We've had quite a number of counties that have already passed. Last month, we had Montgomery County. We had Anne Arundel. Last month, we also had Baltimore City. In May, we had Prince George County, we had Charles County, St. Mary's, and lots of other counties in Maryland. And coming up on the 27th of this month is Baltimore County, and that has a lot of properties, vacant land, commercial, residential, and all these. Tax liens and tax deeds are government-backed statutory investment instruments. Government-backed statutory investment instruments. This is not speculation. This is not some gambling. This is not, I don't know, something that you are guessing. the returns, the timelines, the right of redemption or not redemption, everything that concerns tax liens and deed is defined by the law of the county, is defined by the law, and it's clear. You just need to do your due diligence and know that in this county, in this state, what are the laws as far as tax liens or tax deeds are concerned. And as long as you operate within the laws, these are government-backed investment routes for anyone to access. So like I said, in the US, there are three systems. So you have the lien system, you have the deed system, and you have the hybrid system. In the lien system, you own the lien certificate, you get back your money plus interest if it is redeemed, or you can foreclose after, like in the case of Maryland, after 6 months, if it is non-owner occupied, or 9 months, if it is owner occupied. You have the deed system, whereby in states like Texas, Georgia, and all that, you own the property immediately after the auction. Like if this auction coming on the 27th in Baltimore was happening in Georgia or Texas, or California, any of the deed states, after that auction, you own the deed and the property directly. You can begin to talk to your construction partners if you want to do some development on the property. Then you have hybrid, different kinds of hybrid systems, including redeemable deed, whereby you buy the deed and the owner by law in terms of that particular state or county has a time frame within which if they can raise back their money, they can bring it back plus the interest, and then their deed can be given back to them. So you get back your money plus your interest if they follow the law and come back to redeem within that particular time. Otherwise, they lose the right to redeem, and then you now can take ownership. So like I said, Maryland is a tax lien state. Baltimore County has a 12% interest. And the auction for 2026 for Baltimore County ends, the registration ends on the 7th of August, which is by the end of this week. And that is at 4:30 in the afternoon, no exceptions. Payment is online through bank transfer from a verifiable account. So you can get back your money plus interest, or you can foreclose in 6 months if it's vacant land or it's owner not occupied house. You can foreclose in 6 months, but you need to run your maths. You need to do your numbers. Like I said, liens and deeds, investment, it's a mathematical game. It's not an emotional game. And you need to do your numbers. You need to do your risk analysis. And then you make decision. Like people are doing really well in this when they do the risk analysis, when they buy the right properties and do the right strategy on the property. It can be really a very good passive income. I mean, I was talking to this other friend. She bought a massive land and she did what we call mobile homes and tiny homes. I didn't know about that, but like these are low income things. They actually, like, you can buy them, they just come and install them and people rent them, and she's making passive income from that land that she just put those tiny homes and mobile homes, as they are called, in that plot. I didn't know about that, but she was telling me about it, and that's quite interesting. So that is really what happens. So if you are interested in Baltimore, I mean, every week, every month, there are new auctions. And just think about how many counties in Maryland alone, how many counties across the state. So there are auctions happening. And like I said, even if you miss the auction, there is this strategy that you can buy if you're ready, or what we call over the counter. And there is a strategy that you can actually use and still get access to these investment opportunities. So if you are interested to take action as far as Baltimore City is concerned, then you need to get straight to the registration link, and $100, you secure your registration. You need to put it in your calendar, the auction date that will be coming 27th of August. you need to then link your bank account to the city. It's all that you'll find it online, how to connect that. You then need to do your due diligence. And that's what I do in my masterclass with anyone that is serious to actually go out there and bid. It's important to do your detailed due diligence for any county that you want to invest in. Then you identify, you do your short list of what you will bid, you come up with your maximum bid amount, you do your risk analysis, you can do your drive by, just see the area, see the place, because the list will contain all these addresses and everything that you can actually check to make up your mind. These are asset-backed investment, government-backed investment opportunities that are opened for anyone to invest. So that will be it for today from my side. Let me yield my mic for any questions. If you've got any question, clarification, comments, you can just on mic and speak. All right, my dear.
Okay. Thank you very much, Doc, for that very elaborate presentation. And it's very eye-opening.
Thank you.
I learned so many things from this discussion. So I have a couple of questions. The first one is registration. Do we have to register for every county?
Yes.
Okay.
So every county that you want to participate in, you have to register. All of them have their own tax deed website.
Okay. I didn't get the difference that you explained about the hybrid lane.
Okay, the hybrid, like if you go to states like your Florida, Illinois, and many other states, there are about 13 states thereabout that are hybrid. So what that means is that in those states, they do what we call deed auction, just like they do in Texas, in California, in Georgia, all the deed states. But in terms of the law for the hybrid states, is that you who bought the deed in this state, you are holding the deed, but the owner has a limited period. In some states, it's 6 months. In some states, it's a year to redeem, to pay and take back their house or their land or their commercial building, whatever it is that was auctioned. If they don't show up, then you can now go ahead and register the deed in your name and everything. If they don't show up within that time. So it's a deed auction, but it's a redeemable deed. That's why it's hybrid.
Okay. Thank you very much.
So it doesn't go through foreclosure like a lien auction. A lien goes through foreclosure. For the redeemable deed, you hold a deed. The government still, in terms of the laws of those states, still gives the owner time to buy back. Your house has already been sold, but if you can raise back that money plus the interest within this particular amount of time, 6 months, 12 months, depending on the county, you can get it back. If they don't raise the money and your interest, then you go ahead to do the registration of the deed in your name. But like in deed state, you can proceed to register immediately after the auction.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
How often are these auctions on a yearly basis? Is it just once a year?
Yes, for every specific county is once a year. They do what they call, like Baltimore City, they had two auctions. They had the main auction and they had what they call the overflow, like the leftover auction. So the main auction, but if you register once, if you had participated in the main auction and maybe you didn't get what you wanted, because in Baltimore, no, this wasn't Baltimore City that did that. This was Anne Arundel. Baltimore City had just one auction. Anne Arundel had two auctions. They had the main auction and then they had the leftover auction. So if you had registered for the main auction, you did not need to register for the leftover. So you bid, but most counties do it once. But in states like Pennsylvania, they have a lot of auctions within. I think they do auctions almost every 4 months in the different counties in Pennsylvania. So depending on the state, in Maryland, it's mostly once a year. And then you have what we call over the counter, which is another process whereby you can buy properties outside of the auction system.
Those over the counter properties left over from the main auction?
That's right. That's leftovers. And there's a way you check whether they have been redeemed or not. So there's a website you can go and check, and you realize that these have not been redeemed. These are still registered in the name of the county, because when they are left over, the properties are in the name of the county. So you can go to the county and then you can get the leftovers directly from the county.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first thing, you're going to send the link so we can look at them and see if there's anything of interest, correct?
Yeah, I'll send the link. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of properties, from houses, vacant land, so you can have a look. But then if you are really keen, then you need to act on the deadline of the 7th of August. It's $100 to register. I'll also send the website. You just go there, you register if you're interested.
Is it a live auction where we actually go?
It's online. Once you
That's
register,
online.
you will log on. So whether you are in your office, you're at home, you can bid online. So the day of the auction, the system opens and you can bid. And I'll show you how all those things work.
Okay. Sounds good. Do they do any background checks on people?
No, you just have, like, if you're buying in the name of a company, for example, they would just ask a question of if that company is in good standing, but there's no background checks. There's nothing like that. You just have to pay. If you don't pay on the day of the auction, for example, you bid and you were the highest bidder and you don't pay, the property goes to the next bidder behind you. But what happens is you can be blacklisted in that county.
Yeah, of course. All right. Sounds good.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Brenda?
Yeah. So what I wanted to ask is the lien states, right?
Mhm.
You don't register per state, you register per county. That's what you're explaining, right?
That's correct, because every county has its own properties, and they collect taxes. The way the tax system is structured is per county.
Okay, is it a one-off? Let's say at the Baltimore County now that I register for Baltimore County. Is it a one-off registration, or every time they want to auction, you have to still register?
You are registering for this auction of 2026. This auction of 2026 is going to bring delinquent properties. Some of might have been delinquent for a year, some might have been delinquent for 2 years. There's a way to check this. Some might have been delinquent for 3 years, some might have been delinquent even for 10 years. So they're going to bring all those properties to this auction. So you register once for this auction. And if you don't buy anything at this auction, that's it. They're not gonna refund your $100. If you buy, that's great for you. If you don't buy, they will not refund your $100. That's how it happens in Baltimore. Some other counties do refund your $100 or whatever registration, because the registration is not fixed across the different states. The registration is state, county by county. So every county have their own amount of registration. In Montgomery, for example, where I am, Montgomery County, you don't register with nothing. You just put in your bid. If you win, you pay for your property. If your bid is the highest bid, you pay. So they don't have no registration fee. So it just
Okay.
depends on the county where you are bidding and their rules. So for Baltimore, it is $100 for this auction tax lien 2026. So you pay that online to their website, and then if you get something, you are also required to pay for your property on a specific date. For Baltimore, I think it's the day of the auction or either one day after. So if you're bidding for something, you must be ready to pay. Otherwise, it's going to go to the bidder below you. And what can happen is you can be blacklisted.
Okay.
So, but you will find, when I will share the list and you will see, you'll find properties, some that the deed on it is $500, it's $800, it's $300, it's $1,000, it's $100,000. These things come at different value. It's 1 million. So it just depends.
Okay. Now the like you said, the auction is twice a month, twice a year or so.
No, in Baltimore, it's once in Maryland, every county does tax lien sales once a year. But some can do 2 auctions within the same season. Like Anne Arundel that I participated, I got 3 properties out of that. They did 2. I actually got 2 of my properties. I got them in the leftover auction. The leftover auction, because sometimes the leftover auction for small buyers, like most of the institutional buyers, they come armed. So the first auction, they already have all the resources. They pin in all the big properties, the multi-billion properties, and all those big ones. They take in all those. So by the time you go into leftover property auction, most of them are not there. So you can pick up something from there or later in the day, because sometimes the auction will start at 9 a.m. up to about 4, depending on the county and how many properties I would say. So they do them in badges. So they can put one badge, can be this number of properties, one badge, depending. So they break them down in badges. They can have 5 badges, and they can do 1 badge every hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how will you get to know when each county is going to put up houses, to bid houses? Like, does it have a calendar?
They don't have like a general place where you can go find, but I've done that research. I have all those resources in my master class. So I am building a community of people who are serious about this thing works. I was motivated by someone who owns 100 properties, all bought through tax liens. And he's just enjoying his life at this point in time. I mean, in his early 50s, and he owns that. He has different strategies, from Airbnbs to long-term rentals to all kinds of exit strategies that he's applied. So I was motivated by him to get into this, and I am building a community of people who want. But obviously, I'll give lots of resources out there for free, but I will do master classes that I would charge. But then you will bid directly from your account. And if you have a property that you are interested in and you want me to look at it with my economic lens and give some guidance, I would gladly do that. So those are the things that happened. But the calendar, all those things, I have them. I have all those details on that. And I am creating a WhatsApp group. Brenda, did you join that? Did I send you the details? So you can be on that WhatsApp group. I post every update there. That's a free resources I put there every week.
Did you send it? I don't think you sent it to me.
If I didn't, I will send it again to you. But there I will post every upcoming thing, every calendar, everything. And if you need any help with any
Let me
doc,
check.
I'll gladly assist.
Let me check.
No worries. If you don't have it, I'll still send it, my dear.
Yeah, you didn't send it to me.
Okay. I'll still send it to you. So right now in Maryland, the latest upcoming is that there is a couple more in Pennsylvania and other states that will be coming in the coming weeks. So depending on your interest, there are more happening in different states today. And every week there are auctions happening across the US. So, but it just depends on your interest and where you want to invest. The next state that will be coming quite with a lot is Indiana. They have a lot of investments. I think they also do deeds, if I'm not mistaken, which is a good thing. So it just depends on your interest and your scope. but there are always small parcels, small houses that you can buy and easily convert, or small land that you can get and easily start from there. And then every year you can build on it. So you don't have to have too much. The worst case scenario, like I said, you get your money back and your interest.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Doc. Thank you so much for the time.
All right.
I'm interested in looking at the list and also joining the group.
Okay, so I will send the details to you both, and then if any one of you want to participate in Baltimore, just let me know.
All
You're
right.
welcome.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.